Hello to everybody. I am back with another live that will hopefully be helpful for parents and families. You all know me by now. I'm Erica Desper, and tonight I'm joined by Michaela. Sorry, your last name, Herr. Michaela Herr. Yeah, I know there's two of them in your handle. And thank you so much for your time and for sharing information with us. So Michaela is the owner of Mindfully Rooted Art Therapy. She's an art therapist and has over 11 years of experience working with people and integrating an art as a tool to help them express and communicate and heal. And she is going to tell us all about what that looks like. We're going to do a little activity together. So thanks for joining, and I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Erica. Thanks for having me. It's really nice to be here. I recently got married over the summer, so I'm still kind of changing things over.
Michaela Herr. Okay, so I wasn't totally off base.
Michaela Herr Lubick is now my married name. So I'm working on kind of changing everything over right now. So Michaela is fine if anyone's confused. So thanks for having me. And I am the owner of Mindfully Rooted. I'm excited to be here and talk to you about what the heck art therapy is. A lot of people hear about it and aren't sure what it is. I'm here to clarify and answer questions and make it really approachable and accessible. And hopefully that is what people leave here with, and a couple of tools to help regulate their nervous system, and a couple of ideas of things to think about what they could do for themselves as self-care, as caregivers and parents, and how draining that can be sometimes, and how we often, don't put our mask on first before we help somebody else, right? Like they always say that on the airplane, put your mask on first. So just kind of giving people tools, and then things that you could potentially pass on to kind of teaching your children or teenager. And then I'll give you a list of information to find me as far as if people are interested in one-on-one sessions. I do one-on-one sessions, both online and in Narberth in an office. And I also do various amounts of workshops for groups. So people can reach out to me if they're interested in me hosting an art workshop for them.
Awesome. I'm excited. Take it away.
All right, here we go. All right. So welcome. So this is an introduction to art therapy, just kind of art therapy 101 and what it's about. So this is a long list of things that I believe in, and all of my information, all of my letters and all of those things, just to kind of make people understand it. I'm a registered art therapist and board certified, and I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Pennsylvania. And I have my business online and also in Philadelphia and the main line, serving mainly those two areas. And I help a variety of people for different reasons, and I'm going to talk to you about that. And I also teach at Tyler School of Art and Architecture. We have an undergraduate art therapy program. So if anybody is out there and maybe has a child or a teen that's interested in studying this, art therapy at Temple is a really great place. There's an undergraduate program that I teach several classes at, and it's a really awesome program in Philadelphia.
Awesome.
So I thought I would start with a grounding exercise and have everyone feel their feet on the floor. And if you can find a comfortable space, really press down into your feet and feel all the angles of your feet, your toes pressing into the floor, the sides of your heels, all four corners of your feet, and pressing into the ground, into the floor. And then make sure that you can feel your sit bones on your chair and feel really supported by that. And we're going to take a breath in through our nose and out through our mouth, and in through our nose and out through our mouth, and in through our nose and out through our mouth. And just welcome to this space. And I know we have a lot of thoughts and ideas, and our brain is wired to constantly think and plan and all of those good things. And sometimes we have to gently remind it non-judgmentally that we're in this moment at this time. And if you need reminders, Press your feet into the floor, feel your sit bones in your chair, and also breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth as a reminder to stay in this space and in the moment. Eileen Miller said, art can permeate the very deepest part of us where no words exist. And this is very true. Art therapy can gain access into a lot of areas of the brain. There's a lot of research happening with this right now, which is great. People love research, as do I. It's important to validate what art therapy is actually doing in the brain. And there's a lot of research right now on a lot of different categories of people working with art therapy, but a lot of veterans and trauma survivors working with art therapy and how it really helps access other parts of the brain where maybe there's been a really intense trauma for someone that has limited language expression. This can also work with children and people that are on the autism spectrum and have different limitations with verbal expression. So many varieties of people that can benefit from having a different outlet to express themselves. So everyone always asks, what is art therapy? Art therapy is an integrative mental health and human service profession. It enriches the lives of individuals, families, communities through active art making, creative process, applied psychological theory, and human experience with a psychotherapeutic relationship, within the psychotherapeutic relationship. The American Art Therapy Association, that's their latest definition. You can go onto their website at aata.org for more information on where to find an art therapist and all of that good stuff from all over the country. So art therapy can transform. It can help people connect to themselves and to others. It can help people express. It can unite people. I work with a lot of families, a lot of relationships, couples, siblings, those kind of challenges or setbacks. We can explore so many different things, identity, so many different things that are really limited without words and being able to go to those really deep, dark places. Sometimes we can use art to discover and help people communicate. And here's a really long list of all the people that can benefit from art therapy. And there's probably 100 other things that I didn't list, but anything from LGBTQ plus to self-injurious behaviors, racial injustice and trauma, autism spectrum disorders, divorce. I work with a lot of families going through that and just the challenges that brings for the whole family system, refugees, eating disorders. I mean, still people trying to put together the past 2.5 years and what the heck just happened with the pandemic and re-socializing and just all of the things that affect our lives. So anything under the sun, cancer, chronic health conditions, really anything and everything can be helpful, depending on the person and depending on their willingness to want to engage in the therapeutic art process.
A pretty comprehensive list.
Very comprehensive list. Everyone in any, if people are interested, even at a lick of interest of art, send us, send them to an art therapist. And of course, if they like something that is creative and it's not art, there are music therapists out there that are also really incredibly equipped to help people express through musical instruments and music. There's dance movement therapists that can help people like somatically, things in your body and different types of things that can be helpful in a movement place, and so many different other modalities out there that can help along with verbal expression, of course, in like a regular talk therapy session. So people are often like, do you just work with children? Well, not necessarily. A lot of people work with children. I work with a lot of adults and adolescents, mainly ranging from 7th, 8th, 9th grade, all the way through high school, college, after college, and beyond. That's kind of the bread and butter of who I work with. And I mainly work with people that identify as women. But people work with all different types of ages and groups. And just kind of art history 101 of art therapy is the field was created in the 40s. So it's a fairly recent, recently formed official group. As we all know, the arts have been around since the beginning of time, and
I was going to say unofficially, I think people have been using it for a long time therapeutically.
Very unofficially been around for a very, very long time. But the official creation was in the 40s. And we officially had the American Art Therapy Association in our country in 1969. And then the ATCB, which stands for Art Therapy Credentials Board, and kind of is our governing ethical kind of contributor, is in 1993 to kind of help promote ethics and all of that. So just a little, where does this come from? A little bit of context so people know. And, the flip side of it is it's great because I'll be at conferences, pre-pandemic when we were in person, and I have gotten to meet a lot of people that have written several books in the field because it is newer, quote unquote. So there's still a lot of people that are out there that are living and breathing and still working on writing about art therapy and passing that on because the field is so recent. So that's the other side of it that can be really fun. Important elements of art therapy is, of course, creating a safe space, a therapeutic rapport and relationship. First and foremost, safety and therapeutic relationships, super important. I'm going to briefly touch on materials and the expressive therapies continuum and kind of why that's important, and why I think it's important for people, especially executive functioning things, that would be helpful to kind of know about materials and why that's important for people. Confidentiality is important in artwork. Relationship to the materials is important. Cultural consideration, and of course ethical considerations. So when we look at the expressive therapies continuum scale, there's so many reasons why I talk about it to people, because some people come in and they want to work with clay, some people want to work with pencil. And you might be sitting there thinking, like, my child really prefers working with clay, or my child really prefers working with oil pastels, or I really like doing collage, right? All of this is kind of interesting to learn about because there is a whole scale in our field to talk about it. So the cognitive symbolic kind of place on this area is using materials such as pens and pencils, colored pencils as well, because they're very concrete, very structured materials, and oftentimes can be really helpful for people that need to have a lot of control over the material and want to have control over the material. So as you move kind of through the spectrum, go into the perceptual affective place. That's where, like, oil pastels are a little bit more fluid than a colored pencil, right? And maybe some liquid markers a little bit more. We're getting into more of a more fluid material. And then when we get into kinesthetic and sensory, we're talking about like finger paints, sand, clay, even model magic. I would say clay is the absolute, and chalk pastels, really, really messy and really great for some people, and other people too overstimulating. Sometimes there's a sensory piece to things that is just way too much for someone. So it's really good to kind of know for you and for your kid, like, what is a good sensory piece for them and maybe what would be helpful for them to work with. So the art therapist works with that person on figuring out the best material where they can feel really confident about it, and they can feel. Some people are really judgmental about their artwork. So a lot of times I'll integrate collage work into working with people that are, I work with a lot of adults that are like, I have not made art in years and I can't even draw a straight line. And I'll say, it's not about what it looks like, it's about what it means to you, and it's about your process. So if anybody takes anything from this, it's about the process, not necessarily just the product. So that's the expressive therapies. Yeah, it's really hard. And
they have a perfectionist streak.
Yeah, the perfectionism is hard. And so a material that would be a little bit more forgiving with that. I love collage. I love sand tray. That can be really playful and kind of get people out of the mindset of what does this look like versus like being in that moment and experiencing that material. And that's why I love clays and model magics and those types of materials. So art therapy versus therapeutic art making. Art therapy is facilitated by an art therapist, someone that has their master's degree in art therapy. There's a really important part of witnessing someone make art and their art making process, how they interact with the material, what they say about the artwork, and really the context in which, some people will come up to me and say, I know you're an art therapist. My kid made this, 5 years ago. What does it mean? And I'll say, I have no idea. I am not a crystal ball. I cannot look and analyze anything. It's more about what did this person feel in the moment that they made it, and help me understand, help me understand where they're at and what they're looking at, and help me understand the context that they made it in. And then I'll have a better understanding of what someone needs when I ask them about it. And I never say, this looks like this or that looks like that. I often say, like, tell me about your artwork, or is there a story going on in this piece? Or does your art piece have a title, or a story of a beginning, middle, and an end? Or, are you anywhere in your artwork? If so, where? Those types of questions. And then anyone can really experience therapeutic art making. Hopefully people have been able to have that experience. You can do that with yourself. You can be part of a group. You don't have to have any training, and still enjoy, painting on your own, or listening to music and making something can bring you a sense of peace and joy and relaxation, and you don't need a witness. I'm going to play this movie clip. It's 2 minutes long, but I really, really love it. And I think it's really important for people to see. And the person that starts out in the film, her name is Judy Rubin, and she's written probably 15 to 20 books. She's in her 80s. She still attends a lot of different workshops. And so I just really admire her. She has a lot of really amazing things that she's done to the field.
Great.
Art therapy looks simple, but isn't.
Is it something to do with psychology? Is it magic?
It's a language that is beyond barriers, beyond any kind of written word.
It doesn't look different from an art class, but what's really different is what's going on in the head of the art therapist.
Here you go. Thank you, Natalie.
Art therapy is a combination of psychology and art. By describing the image, we hear metaphor.
It can be done anywhere, it can be done with anybody.
When we finish drawing, we can share our experience.
I'm like starting out whole, and then feeling like I'm in pieces.
On March 11th, there was the great Tohoku earthquake. Cleaning up, I was seeing all these pieces.
It hits everybody at a core, this particular horrifying tragedy.
Art is a gift. You have broken bits and pieces, but somehow it can all come together and give you the most beautiful surprise.
I just pieced together a heart, and I realized this is it. It's not just me making mosaics, but the people who might get that same sense of relief.
A lot of women use art therapy here to reconnect with a part of themselves.
All the families that were coming to visit this healing project were coming out to be around other people.
I think people who go into a field like this want to do good. They want to help other people.
Oh, Jenny, you still have it!
And they want to help it through something they're passionate about, which is art.
Now that's great. Makes you feel better. Oh, yeah.
The arts help us. They are soothing, nourishing, and nurturing.
Good job!
You're really helping that person to figure out who they are and who they want to become.
I love that every time.
That's too sweet.
I'm all about it
right now.
Let me just exit my full screen. Of course, always nothing, always a technical error, right?
Right?
Nothing is the same except for that. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So art is about the process and not the product. And I think sometimes it's really hard to talk about what art therapy is. That's why I love to integrate image into it and why I have a video clip so you can see it. And then, you know, in a little bit, you'll have a moment to experience some art and kind of what that can be and how it can shift the way that we look at things and interact with what's going on in our internal dialogue and just kind of change things up in our brain a little bit, which is helpful. And when someone makes an art piece, it really does become part of the therapeutic relationship if it's in context of a therapy session, and we can use it to get to know what's going on. And like they said in the movie, it's a very metaphorical thing that oftentimes, you know, we are representing things in metaphor consciously or not, and things kind of emerge in the artwork. If we want them to or not, it oftentimes does come out, but I'm not a crystal ball. It's really about what people want it to be and what it means to them. That's the most important thing. So I just wanted to mention self-care and creating your own toolbox. It's been kind of my bread and butter of what I've been doing in my practice currently. I'm really trying to encourage everybody to have a self-care plan, if that is a teenager or if that's an adult, to try to figure out how to feel empowered and feel like whatever comes and rocks us, because life rocks us in different ways. It can dysregulate us and dysregulate our nervous system, to kind of have a toolbox, and using art is definitely part of that toolbox. But I found recently with the pandemic and kind of coming in and out of all the changes that people's autonomic nervous system and limbic system has been really dysregulated. There've been a lot of changes. There have been a lot of things that have been out of people's control, and kind of burning out from being online, burning out from all the changes, burning out from just different stressors and different things we've had to think through differently. And even though I think it's gotten a lot better, we still kind of have that extra layer of like thought process of assessing things based on a more complex way of looking at things than we ever did before the pandemic. Just things that we have to consider. So anyways, I wanted to talk about the autonomic nervous system for a minute and talk about the vagus nerve. I'm really, really excited about the vagus nerve. I think there's going to be a lot of things coming out about it in future things. And I think that it really is so important to know about. And I'm going to teach people a couple of ways to stimulate the vagus nerve, because that's really important. When we stimulate it, which is a little counterintuitive, when we stimulate it, it actually does regulate it. And it's the biggest nerve that is inside of our brain, and it goes down our spine and it goes in the front as well, and it connects to our stomach, and it has a lot to do with how we digest. You know, if we're in rest and digest, that's a good place to be, is in a ventral vagal place. It's based on polyvagal theory, and I really believe in that. And just a couple of tools that I listed. Whenever we are dysregulated, a lot of times that can look like anxiety for someone, that can look like irritability for someone else. That's the kind of the sympathetic place of the nervous system when we get dysregulated is anxiousness and worry and like intense panic in some people, or really intense irritability and like lashing out and having meltdowns. The other place that our nervous system goes when we're dysregulated is called a dorsal place of the vagus nerve, the nervous system. And the dorsal part of the nervous system essentially is like very low motivation, really low mood. Some people can say it's depression. I find it just to be like very limited motivation and no elevated mood, like very, very limited amount of energy to do something. Like I just can't. I'm too overwhelmed. I'm too much, that kind of mentality of things. That's where we can feel burnt out and just kind of numb in a lot of ways. So both of those places are dysregulation. And so what I want people to learn about is how to regulate your autonomic nervous system and how to get into a ventral vagal state as much as possible, and to remind ourselves and our bodies and our brains to go back to those places as much as possible, because that's where we are the most content. We feel rested, we feel digested. It like helps all of the rest of the organs and functioning of our body if our nervous system is regulated. It's kind of like this cascading event of things. So there's such a big mind-body connection that I integrate into the work that I do as well. And kind of figuring out, mapping out everyone's toolbox to help them figure out how to regulate themselves. And everyone's so different, right? So everything is different and individualized for everyone. So I have a lot of tools that I listed here. I'm not endorsed by BrainTap Pro yet, but I feel like I should be a partner with them because I talk about them all the time to my students and my clients and parents. But this is a really great app that helps regulate the vagus nerve and does like vagal toning. If you download the app and use it with headphones, it's really helpful. It sends like really nice beats to your inner ear, which is where the vagus nerve starts, and it helps stimulate it.
That would be something I could get my kid into.
Yes, exactly.
An app with headphones. He's in.
Exactly, right? That's exactly what parents and kids are gonna kind of be leaning into, more easily than other things. So that's a great tool. Also Spotify, I didn't have this listed, but on Spotify, a lot of my kids are, they have their own playlists, they're on Spotify. So they're a little bit more willing to look into it, looking into a playlist that I can kind of share with you, Erica, or something like that. It's really looking at frequency specific beats is what it's called. And you can look up different frequency specific beats. One's for like relaxation. One can be for, sleep if you're having a hard time sleeping, and you can be listening to that without headphones, and kind of the beats, believe it or not, kind of help when you're in the same room with it, help you when you're listening. So pretty cool things out there that are available. And I always tell people, like, if they're on the verge of having a panic attack or they're really stressed, cold showers are really great. That will take you out of a dysregulated place of your nervous system and put you into ventral vagal, believe it or not.
You can stand it.
If you can stand it, cold plunges and polar plunges are in, and I am here for it. I think it's awesome. Even if you can do a minute, 30 seconds at the end of a shower, it can really wake you up and help your nervous system. Grounding, mindfulness, movement, and of course therapy. And you can look at Psychology Today for tools to help for everyone. And just recognizing your own burnout when you're maybe reactive to your child or reactive to a partner, just kind of paying attention to what where you kind of lean if you get dysregulated into into a dorsal place of the dysregulation, or if it's the other place, like just kind of paying attention to what you lean towards or what your child lean towards, and know that there are ways and tools to be created to help with those dysregulations. Makes us feel less alone, right?
For sure.
Let me see. I was going to do an art experiential. I want to just, let's see. What is that? Yeah. Okay. So I thought we would create a remote control, and people can draw this however they want. It can be, the shape of your remote control, or it can be your own shape, however that looks. And to take a few minutes and create some buttons on your remote control of things that you would love to be able to pause or fast forward to or jump to. If that's a season, if that's a place, if that's a person, if that's, the weekend, a time off, something relaxing, whenever that is to you. So take a couple of minutes, and if you have paper and whatever materials you have access to, you don't need much. You can just use paper and a pen, and take a few minutes and create some buttons on your remote control and think about what would be ideally something we'd want to be able to push and jump to and feel like we have control over. And disclaimer, it doesn't mean that when you make it, this is happening. It just helps you gain perspective on, what would be nice to have a sense of control. And is there a way that we can gain access to control in a different way that's, obtainable, or maybe what's getting in the way of you having a break or time off, or being able to relax with something and figuring that out.
Right.
Take a couple of minutes and do that.
I'm working on my remote.
Okay, great.
It's already imperfect, but I'm going to be cool with that.
And yeah, welcome to that and that awareness. That's really important.
It's the process, not the
Trust
process.
the process, right? Just like we ask, we tell our kids to do that. We have to do the same too.
Yep.
I'm going to stop screen share just for a minute.
Okay.
Maybe take another moment or so to finish your remote. Adding any extra buttons you can think of that would be helpful. Perhaps you add a self-care button and what that really looks like for you, and think about that. Okay. So, we don't have to share, but I'm curious, was there anything, Erica, that you learned about in your remote control that you would feel comfortable sharing, or a button you could share that would be something that you like?
Well, most of my buttons look like actual buttons because I'm a very, very literal person. But then I was like, wait, maybe I shouldn't be so literal. So I actually have a button that kind of looks like a sunset because that's one of my favorite things in the world. Well, or sunrises. I just don't get up early enough to see sunrises ever.
Yeah.
It like instantly makes me happy and calm, and all is right with the world. I can never get enough of them. I take a million pictures that never look like the actual thing. So definitely a sunset button on my remote.
I love it. Okay. And that's really helpful and good for you. So that might be a nice moment, even if it's a glimpse, to go out and make that a priority for yourself, in the chaos and the busyness of life, like being aware of, as we go through the year, it gets, earlier and earlier that the sun goes down. So it's always such a small window as it gets into this time of the year where it goes down like in a blink of an eye. So just maybe even putting a timer on your phone to remind yourself, like, I just need to look outside, get a glimpse, take a photo, take a mental picture, like maybe take a couple of deep breaths, be in that moment, and kind of keep moving and, be in the chaos of whatever.
Yeah. I also put a cat button that looks like a cat because I adore spending time with my cat. I'm never as relaxed as when like my little cat is on my lap and I can't get up because she's there, and I'm like forced to slow down and just be like when my son was a newborn, right? And he'd fall asleep on me and I'd be like, all right, well, I can't do anything.
Yeah, right. Where are you going to go? And
I'm doing the most important thing right now that I can be doing.
Holding your child and they are content. That is ideal, right?
I'm not great at slowing down. So someone or something giving me a reason where that's my only option is very helpful.
Yeah. And cats and any type of pet really, and babies and children in general, keep us really mindful and in the moment because they are so much in the moment, right? And if for them, a lot of so they have to be in the moment because they don't know what it means, 10 minutes from now or tomorrow or yesterday. It's kind of like this really unknown, construct. So they help us be in the moment, which is helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So this is something that's, can be passed on to, having your kids created, and it's a fun activity to try to think about for yourself. I like to make it every so often. I feel like mine always is changing, which is interesting to kind of check in of like, what do I need today? What would be helpful on the horizon for my remote control? Maybe it changes throughout the time of year or what I'm needing, depending on what's going on.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that because our topic last week was about sleep. Sorry to interrupt you.
No worries.
I was not the speaker. I brought somebody in who has a little more experience with neurodivergent kids, but that's what I do as well. And generally I'm helping kids who go through like age 3 or age 5 and, nightmares and scary thoughts and are always a big topic. So I always tell parents to like talk with them about, when we go to sleep, let's pretend we have a remote control. And if our brain is thinking unhappy, scary, unpleasant thoughts, what channel could we change it to? What are your channels going to be, for tonight? So this would actually be a great, because if you can't write, you can draw. Mm-hmm. So you could sort of combine those two things and just get them thinking about ways to sort of shift their brain when they wake up.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I worked with kids on the spectrum, we did that a lot, like how to change the channel of your brain, how to change those thoughts, how to transition out of that and like, let's keep moving. So it doesn't stay in that thought pattern. And that's really challenging. But yeah, visuals always are helpful for any type of concept. I think it's really nice to put it into a visual, especially for young people. So they, such a natural language of art and play. That's, I don't have kids come in and sit down and say like, this is what's going on today. I'll have them come in and say like, make something and they show me how they're doing or where they're at, and that's the beauty of art.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just have one more quote from my girl, Brene Brown, because I love her. So shout out to Brene Brown. Yeah. We are born makers. We move what we are learning from our heads to our hearts through our hands. So I love her. I love her books. I think she has a lot of really great things to talk about, about empathy and vulnerability and connection and all these really beautiful things that are life skills that I think as adults we need as well. And let me just share this briefly because it's a suggested reading list if people are interested in looking at it. It is a helpful, nope, not slideshow. So here's suggested reading if people are interested to learn more about art therapy. There's a couple of Kathy Malchiotti's books on the list. Sean McNiff is on there about creativity. The most recent book that I am super excited about is Foundations in Art Therapy, Theory and Application by Rastogi that just came out this summer. And I thought I put it on here, but I love the healing power of the vagus nerve. That's where I get a lot of information and tools from. And that book is really wonderful as well. So it's definitely recommended for people that are interested in the vagus nerve. And to kind of I wanted to do a vagus nerve technique and, pass it along to people that they can teach for their kids or to do for themselves. Sometimes I do it in traffic. Let's be honest. There can be a lot of frustration when we drive and we're just kind of sitting there and trying to be patient and call on our courage to not, do crazy things in the car, because wild people are doing crazy things in the cars. So one thing I like to do, again, is like plant our feet on the floor and kind of get our sit bones adjusted. And this is called the inchworm. And you use your thumb, pointer, and middle finger, and you start with your pinky. And this stimulates the vagus nerve because it goes throughout all of where all of these things are. So we're going to kind of inch up our pinky, and then we're going to pull it. And then we're going to inch up our ring finger. Our pointer finger. Thumb. Switch, go to the next, start with a pinky again. We're just inching up and then pulling. And this activates the vagus nerve.
Simple enough.
Simple enough. And it's one of those things where I could teach a lot of different techniques on how to activate and regulate the nervous system. But, you know, some of them are this, you know, some of them are acupressure points, some of them is tapping and those types of things. But I wanted to kind of share something that was easily accessible and something people could do if they're in school and they're stressed, or if they're in a meeting and they're stressed out.
A little obvious. This is a little more subtle.
You can do it under the table. You can do it, you know, if it's before, you know, a really big game or, you know, a social experience and people are a little nervous to, you know, interact with people or be in a certain situation. Like Thanksgiving is next week, family dynamics. Like, I hope you all learned how to do some inchworming.
Right. We need to go 3 places on the same day. So I'm going to be doing a lot of inchworming. It's too much socializing for me in too many locations.
Exactly. It's a lot. It's a lot at once. So, and lastly, I wanted to share my information on where you can find me.
Yeah, definitely. Let us know where to find you. I know you mentioned you have a location now in Narberth, and our families are mainly local to the mainline area. So that is
awesome
news.
It is. It's really exciting. I feel like I'm a bear, like out of hibernation. That's what I've been feeling. Like I've been in my cave. I've loved my home. It's really lovely and cozy. And I still meet people online and it's awesome. I have people from all over Pennsylvania. And I just had a sense that a few people on my caseload that I work with were really, really wanting that. And so once I got the space, I've been really happy there. I've only been there a week, but it's inside. Kind of nestled into a sustainable goods store named Shift in Narberth, and it's on you know, that main strip there in Narberth on Haverford.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that and getting married. Lots of exciting things are happening for you.
Big news. Yeah, it was a big year. It was a good year.
Yeah.
So,
good.
There's my info. You know, you can find me on Instagram. I'm a recent user of TikTok, as my students at Temple have encouraged me to do self-care tips on there. So I am on there doing self-care to get it out to more people. Yeah.
I'm still heavily resistant.
I know. I feel that too, but I've somehow been able to just tunnel vision, just go to my page, work on it, and then just kind of see what happens. And I haven't
great.
been.
I mean, that's where your audience is, and it's probably a way for you to connect and them to connect with you.
Yeah, and there's my information as well. If you want more information, you can go to my website, and I have a whole portal thing that you can go into and email me, and I'm happy to connect with you.
Awesome. Wonderful. Yeah. So I know, you know, in the group, one of the things that parents comment about pretty often is that they're, especially if they have a teenager, that they're incredibly resistant to therapy, or even just flat out refusing to start participating or continue participating. I assume your answer is yes, but do you think that kids that are of that mindset, this might be a better avenue to try with them? Is it a little less, I don't know, intimidating or unappealing?
Absolutely. It's definitely a safer invitation than come on in and sit on my couch kind of thing. It's come on in and let's hang out at the table, or let's make art from your room. If you don't want to come in and it's just too much energy to leave your room, be in your pajamas and be at your desk, and let's make art, you know, from a distance and use the materials you have around your space. I really love working with resistance to a place where borderline, I want to be confident and not cocky about the skills and things that I feel like I can do, but I've never not been able to work with someone that walks in my door, believe it or not. Like, even if parents are like, they really don't want to be here. And so I just name that. And I'm like, hey, I see that you don't want to be here. Or like, I hear that you don't. What's up? And they're often like, it's not you. And I'm like, I didn't feel like it was me, like, I don't take it personally. And I often say, like, what do you need? Where do you need to start? And some people will say, I just want to make art. I don't want to talk. And I'll say, great, let's do that. Or, I don't want to talk about anything deep. Okay, cool. Let's not talk about anything deep. And so I really help them, help me kind of lead where they're at and what they're comfortable with. And, it's where it's really individualized and tweaked to make people feel comfortable and feel like they have some empowerment in this, and if they're really not in that place, I don't want people to show up until they have at least a sliver of what's in it for me. And sometimes I feel like a salesperson, but I sometimes do have to sell art therapy to kids and to teens. Right. And sometimes they're ready for that pitch, and sometimes they need space from it. I had somebody I worked with several years ago that was not in the place, came in, was like kind of interested, and then was like, I'm out. And then a year later came in and she was like all in and like super excited and was a really consistent person. We worked through a lot of things, but she needed to kind of get into that place and work it out for herself. And that's really worth it, to make sure they feel empowered with that.
That's really awesome. And I know when we spoke, before this live, you were saying that another big portion of your clientele are moms.
Yes, big portion.
Or even like moms of kids with extra needs, because we do just get so burned out and we're at the bottom of our to-do list and we don't have a self-care toolbox. So just to mention, we're not just talking about this for the kids, and maybe they're not into it. Maybe you go do it and you work through your own, overwhelm and frustration and all that stuff that goes with having a kid that's a little extra.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if your child or your teen isn't into it, I work with a ton of parents, and I've worked with moms for a long time. And I have a very special place in my heart for moms, because I feel like they do so much. They're warriors. They take on so many things, and yet where is their time and space for themselves, So I'm happy to provide that for people and, encourage people to look into their own tool for their own expression with all of the things they have to manage in their home and with their families.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right. Well, I'm really excited to share this with everybody.
Thanks, Erica.
We'll probably be reaching out about my my kiddo, and we'll come find you in Narberth.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time and your expertise. And I will make this available, and I'm sure we'll have you back to talk again.
Sounds wonderful. I'd love that. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.